Listen.
Doctors you need.
If you thought Cheers was funny on screen, just wait until you see what went down behind the scenes. The bloopers from this show are on a whole other level. Missed cues, forgotten lines, accidental giggles, and entire scenes that fall apart because someone couldn't hold it together. And honestly, it makes the cast feel even more lovable. So if you've already watched the show front to back, the bloopers are your next stop. Let's get into these moments. Laughter behind the bar. Cheers is a famous American TV sitcom that first aired in 1982 and ran for 11 seasons until 1993. The show takes place mostly in a bar called Cheers in Boston, where a group of regular customers and the staff spend their time talking, joking, and sometimes arguing. The bar is like a second home for many of the characters. The main character is Sam Malone, played by Ted Danson. Sam is a former baseball player who owns the bar. He is friendly, confident, and sometimes a bit of a ladies' man. Other important characters include Diane Chambers, played by Shelley Long, who starts working as a waitress and often clashes with Sam. Carla Tortelli, the sharp-tongued waitress. Norm Peterson, a regular customer who loves to drink and make jokes. And Cliff Clavin, the bar's know-it-all mailman. Cheers became very popular because it mixed humor with real-life situations. The show had smart writing, funny dialogue, and great actors. It was not just about jokes. It also showed friendships, love, and everyday problems. The show was also known for its great chemistry between the cast members. Viewers felt like they were part of the bar's community. Because of this, Cheers won many awards and is still considered one of the best sitcoms of all time. Most people remember Cheers for its friendly bar, funny one-liners, and characters that felt like old friends. But behind all that smooth acting and well-written dialogue were moments when things went wrong, and those moments were even funnier. These are the Cheers bloopers. Back in the 1980s and early 90s, bloopers weren't easy to find. There were no YouTube clips or streaming playlists, so when a blooper reel did come out, it felt like a special gift. You get to see your favorite actors break character, forget their lines, or completely mess up a scene. And instead of getting mad, they laughed. A lot. Ted Gets Blank. This is a classic. You've got a scene lined up with Ted Danson, Shelley Long, and Nicholas Colasanto. Everyone's in place, cameras rolling, and Nicholas delivers his line smoothly. All eyes turn to Ted, and silence. Not dramatic silence, not comedic pause, just nothing. Ted completely blanks out. You can literally hear the gears grinding behind his eyes as he tries to pull up his line from the mental filing cabinet, and it's just not there. The pause stretches so long it becomes its own joke. Then the dam bursts. Shelley starts giggling, Nicholas loses it, and the crew behind the camera cracks up too. It's like watching a well-oiled machine suddenly sputter, stall, and laugh at itself. And the best part? Ted just shrugs and laughs with them, like, "Yeah, you caught me." Nicholas forgets his one line. But karma's real in the sitcom world because Nicholas forgets his one line right after. The scene resets. Nicholas is supposed to deliver one line, just one. That's it. And what happens? He freezes, completely. He opens his mouth, nothing comes out. Ted and Shelley try to hold it together, but their smirks betray them. A beat passes, then another. Finally, Nicholas just throws up his hands and chuckles, breaking character completely. Everyone bursts out laughing again. And honestly, you can feel the love in the room. It's not mean-spirited laughter. It's family laughter, the kind that says, "We've all been there." Shelley's gibberish moment. The cast is filming a casual bar scene, and the topic of Benny Hill comes up. Shelley Long, in full Diane Chambers mode, is supposed to throw in a witty quip. Instead, what comes out is syllables, jumbled, mumbled nonsense. It starts out sounding like words but dissolves into cartoon-level babble halfway through the sentence. Everyone freezes for a second. Did that just happen? Then the laughter hits. Shelley tries to recover by restarting the line, but she only makes it weirder. At that point, even the extras in the background are laughing. It's like a ripple effect. You can feel the crew trying to keep it together behind the camera and failing miserably. Rhea Perlman's cute slip-up. Rhea, who plays the fierce, no-nonsense Carla, flubs a line mid-scene, but the way she handles it makes the whole room melt. She doesn't get flustered. She just flashes this bashful little smile, shrugs, and softly mutters, "Let me try that again." Everyone smiles back. It's one of those bloopers that's less about the words and more about the vibe. You're reminded that these actors aren't just pros. They're human. And it's adorable. The crown that wouldn't stay. This next one is iconic. Shelley Long wins the title of Miss Boston Barmaid, and as she goes up to give her speech, a waiter places a crown on her head. But the crown refuses to cooperate. It keeps slipping off, and the more she tries to adjust it, the funnier the scene gets. What was supposed to be a proud moment turns into pure comedy. Belt drama in the bar. There's a scene where Ted Danson tells Shelley Long that the bar isn't doing well. Shelley is supposed to reply while adjusting her belt, but as she fiddles with it, the belt refuses to budge and gets stuck. The awkward fumble turns the whole thing into a blooper. Nobody expected a wardrobe prop to steal the scene. The cheese bowl disaster. In another scene, John Ratzenberger and George Wendt are deep in conversation when John casually asks Nicholas to pass the cheese bowl. Nicholas tries to slide it over, but it goes straight to the floor. Everyone in the bar bursts into laughter. It's so simple, yet so chaotic. Nicholas messed up again. And it doesn't stop there. They tried to shoot that moment multiple times, 3 or 4 takes in total, and each one somehow ended in more laughter. Fans absolutely loved this blooper. It became one of the most talked-about moments behind the scenes. Ted forgets. Ted Danson is mid-sass in a scene with Shelley Long, delivering a dramatic line with perfect attitude. But then, total brain freeze. He forgets what comes next, and the sass turns into confusion. The timing is so off that it ends up being even funnier than what was in the script. Ted forgets his line again. There's another scene where Ted and Shelley are talking to the bar manager. Ted forgets his line not once but twice in a row. The cast tries to hold it in, but they can't resist teasing him. The blooper that made the cut. Sometimes a blooper is so smooth, it ends up staying in the episode. Like the moment where Shelley Long is holding some documents and walking toward the door. She fumbles slightly, but recovers quickly without breaking character. It's subtle, but fans noticed, and some were surprised the scene wasn't reshot. Maybe the directors decided it was good enough to leave in. It didn't break the flow, and honestly, it just felt real. Sometimes those small slips make the characters feel even more human. And if the bloopers made you laugh, just wait until you see the moments that actually made it into the show. Cheers' funniest on-screen moments. So, what makes all these moments so special? It's not just the writing, though the writers definitely deserve their flowers, and it's not just the cast, even though they nailed every single beat. It's the weird, unpredictable life that Cheers managed to inject into every episode. You could walk into that bar any day of the week, and it would feel like something was about to happen. Something funny, something absurd, something totally off the rails, but always grounded in these lovable, broken people who somehow made it all work. Whether it was Norm's existential bar wisdom, Coach's lovable brain fog, or Carla's relentless verbal takedowns, Cheers had this freakish ability to turn the most mundane moments, like asking for a drink or complaining about work, into full-on comedic art. It wasn't slapstick for the sake of noise. It was layered. It was character-driven. And even when it dipped into pure chaos, there was a method to the madness. And that's what makes these funniest on-screen moments so enduring. They weren't just punchlines. They were snapshots of a world that felt alive. A place where you could imagine yourself pulling up a stool, ordering a screaming Viking, whatever that is, and getting roped into a debate about Russian poets or the suspicious texture of beef. Take the food fight, for example. That wasn't just a gimmick. It was a weirdly honest portrayal of people trying to make the best of a lonely Thanksgiving. Or Cliff on Jeopardy! As ridiculous as it was, it spoke to this underdog desperation we've all felt, wanting to prove ourselves, even if we crash and burn trying. And don't even get me started on Lilith's silent jump scare appearances. She was like a sitcom horror villain, deadpan, brilliant, and somehow scarier the less she said. The way Frasier would practically jump out of his skin whenever she entered the room. Emmy-worthy reactions every single time. Even Sam, who often played the charming doofus, had moments of surprising emotional honesty. Like when he defends his taste in women to Diane. For just a second, all the jokes drop away, and you see this guy who's trying to understand why he is the way he is. That kind of tonal shift was rare for sitcoms at the time. Cheers did it effortlessly. Then there's Diane. Oh, Diane. She was a masterclass in cringe comedy before it was a trend. Every time she thought she was the smartest person in the room, the universe and Carla stepped in to remind her otherwise. And her storm-outs? Legendary. Especially when she had to slink back in for something she forgot. It wasn't just funny. It was cathartic. Coach, of course, was the heart. His comedic timing was rooted in innocence, which made his every misunderstanding or outburst feel like a gift. Whether he was yelling "blubber butts" across the room or forgetting his own name, you never laughed at him. You laughed because you adored him. And that's a rare kind of sitcom magic. Rebecca brought her own flavor of chaos. From marrying a plumber out of existential panic to hiding a secret cigarette in her mouth like it was state evidence, she was always on the edge of a meltdown, but in the most theatrical, lovable way. She wasn't just a foil for Sam, she became her own whirlwind of perfectly curated disaster. And somehow, all of these characters coexisted in a bar that, on paper, should have collapsed under the weight of their dysfunction. But it didn't. It thrived. Because underneath the insults and misunderstandings was a weird, unshakable loyalty. These people were a mess, but they were each other's mess. And the audience? We were part of that mess too. So yeah, the bloopers are hilarious. The behind-the-scenes laughs are priceless. But the real magic? It's in these on-screen moments. These scripted, yet somehow real, snapshots of absurdity, vulnerability, and lightning-in-a-bottle timing that turned a little Boston bar into a cultural landmark. Because, at the end of the day, Cheers wasn't just about alcohol or punchlines or even that iconic theme song, although, let's be real, that song hits hard. It was about people. Flawed, funny, endearing people just trying to survive their day, one weird story at a time. And that's why, even decades later, these moments still land. still get quoted, still get gifted and memed and referenced at parties by people who weren't even alive when the show aired. That's the kind of comedy that doesn't just age well, it becomes immortal. Funniest Cheers scenes. One of the earliest examples of this comes from the very first season in an episode called Coach Returns to Action. It opens with a cold scene so sharp you almost miss how good it is. Diane and Norm are mid-argument, Cliff gets pulled in, and predictably, Cliff starts rambling. He goes on this bizarre tangent that's supposed to explain something logical, but instead, it spins out into total nonsense. Norm watches it unfold and delivers the punchline with surgical precision. $5 says he has one, 10 says it's a doozy. The line hits, but what really sells it is the calm certainty behind it. Like Norm knew he was about to witness the unraveling of sanity in real time. But Cliff wasn't done. Oh no. One of his greatest moments happens when he finally lands a spot on Jeopardy. It goes as disastrously as you'd expect. He gives the weirdest answers, flunks questions with wild confidence, and somehow walks away proud. Then Alex Trebek walks into the bar, and things only get more ridiculous. Cliff's convinced Trebek is there to confront him, but instead, Trebek feeds him a wild story that Cliff's performance was so bizarre, it gave him an identity crisis. The best part? The whole story is fake. Trebek just wanted a drink, and Cliff never finds out. Then there's the Thanksgiving food fight, possibly the most chaotic Cheers scene ever aired. Thanksgiving Orphans starts as a simple potluck dinner. The crew is gathered, tensions are high, and the turkey is drier than Norm's humor. What begins with quiet passive aggression slowly snowballs until someone throws a roll, and then it's war. Mashed potatoes go flying. Cranberry sauce paints the walls. Even Diane, the show's resident intellectual snob, gets hit square in the face with pie. It's dumb, it's childish, and it's perfect. Because in that moment, the show wasn't trying to say anything deep. It was just letting its characters be human, messy, immature, lovable humans. Frasier also had his fair share of unexpectedly hilarious moments. One of the weirdest happens during the end credits of The Days of Wine and Neuroses, where he breaks into a full-blown Broadway karaoke number. He sings "You're Just in Love" with this wild passion, totally out of sync with his usual pretentious persona. It's so random and out of place that it becomes unforgettable. Frasier, the uptight shrink, losing himself in a show tune, that's comedy. And while we're talking about musical disasters, let's not forget Woody Boyd and the Kelly song. He writes this sweet, clumsy tune for his fiancée, Kelly, performs it in front of everyone, and proudly explains that the song is her gift. The camera lingers on Kelly as she processes that, no, there's no ring, no flowers, just a song. The confusion on her face, paired with Woody's innocent pride, creates a moment so pure and awkward that it somehow circles back to being romantic. But maybe one of the most iconic running gags in Cheers history is Norm's entrance. Every time he walks in, the bar shouts his name. It's comforting, predictable. And yet, the writers found ways to make it fresh. Like in The Peterson Principle, when someone asks how he's doing, Norm replies, "It's a dog-eat-dog world and I'm wearing milk-bone underwear." That line is perfect. It's bleak. It's weirdly poetic. And it only works because it's Norm saying it. Meanwhile, Sam's attempts at flirting were always an easy source of comedy. In one early season episode, he tries to impress a woman by suggesting a movie night, an Australian film, but with subtitles. She immediately nopes out, saying she doesn't read during movies. Sam is stunned. The bar erupts. Diane practically floats with joy, watching him take the L. It's a small moment, but one that hits because it's so believable. We've all tried to sound impressive and had it backfire in real time. Then there's Diane, whose exits were always Oscar-worthy. In one memorable instance, she dramatically quits the bar and storms out, vowing to never return. Not 5 seconds later, she walks back in because she forgot her coat. The timing is brutal. Carla soaks in the embarrassment like a lizard in the sun. That right there is Cheers in a nutshell. Big drama, tiny payoff, and friends who never let you live anything down. Coach, on the other hand, delivered comedy from a completely different wavelength. Whether it was yelling blubberbutts across the bar by accident or forgetting his own name when someone asked for Ernie Pantuso, he had this disarming sincerity that made even his most absurd moments feel oddly touching. In another episode, he explains that when he's stressed, he just bangs his head on the bar. Then, without warning, he does exactly that. No hesitation, just pure slapstick commitment. But one of Coach's most lovable failures comes when he tries to help with a con. In Coach Returns to Action, the crew devises a plan to scam a cocky poker player. Coach is supposed to subtly signal the magician Harry the Hat. But subtlety is not his thing. Instead, he blurts out that something was really itchy, and everyone panics. Turns out, that was the signal. Somehow, Coach's cluelessness saves the day. Meanwhile, Carla always had a way of turning petty into performance art, like in Truce or Consequences, when she convinces Diane that Sam might be the father of one of her kids. For one perfect minute, Diane melts down, and Carla just watches, basking in the emotional chaos like a queen. Even when Carla changes jobs in the final season, the universe doesn't cut her a break. She lands a gig at a new bar and thinks she's escaped the madness until a new employee shows up, who is basically Diane 2.0. Carla looks like she's seen a ghost. Every word out of the new girl's mouth is a flashback to Diane's smugness, and you can practically see Carla's soul leaving her body. Then there's Rebecca. Poor, chaotic, overachieving Rebecca. Her journey from corporate climber to plumber's bride was nothing short of a slow-motion spiral. In the series finale, she admits to marrying a plumber and immediately regrets it. Her voice shakes as she tells the bar she's not even good enough for him. It's so dramatic it loops back to funny, especially when the bar's reaction is basically, "Again? Really?" Lilith, on the other hand, never had to try to be funny. She just was. Every time she showed up, Frasier reacted like he'd seen the Grim Reaper. Her silence, her posture, her cold stare. She was less a person and more a force of nature. In Honor Thy Mother, she appears behind Frasier with no warning, and his soul visibly leaves his body. She barely speaks, but her presence says enough. Nobody terrified Fraz like Lilith did. Other moments are pure nonsense, and somehow still land. Like when Norm asks for a screaming Viking, a completely made-up cocktail, to mess with a new bartender. The clueless guy freezes, while Woody steps in and improvises the ingredients with total confidence. The bartender leaves, and the kingdom is safe again. Or the moment in Season 10 where everyone gets obsessed with counting bolts in the Boston Garden floor. No one knows why. No one stops it. It's just Cheers being Cheers. And let's not forget Cliff and Norm's traumatic trip to the Hungry Heifer, where they were served something called beef. Not beef, not pork. Beef. It's never explained, never confirmed as edible, and both men look emotionally scarred from the experience. The more they say the word, the funnier it gets. Even Sam gets in some sneaky zingers, like when he compares Henri to one of the lesser-known Three Stooges. He doesn't elaborate. He just drops the insult and moves on, leaving Henri confused and the audience howling. That's Sam at his best. Low-effort roast, maximum impact. And then there's the bar itself, always the same, always changing. The place that somehow held all these people together, no matter how different or dysfunctional they were. A place where you could be stupid, or clever, or scared, or bold, and still be part of the family. That's the magic of Cheers. It wasn't just about the big moments. It was about the little ones. About a look, a pause, a pie to the face, a bad drink order, or a song that wasn't actually a gift. It was a living, breathing place. And even now, it feels like if you walked in, Norm would still be sitting there, Cliff would still be wrong about something, and someone, somewhere, would be trying to figure out what the hell Beth really was. Just when you think the laughs couldn't get any better, Cheers delivered some truly iconic moments that were intentionally perfect, and honestly, just as hilarious. Must-see moments. Now that we've seen the bloopers, the awkward takes, and the moments that had the cast-breaking character mid-scene, it's easy to remember why Cheers became one of the most loved sitcoms on TV. But we're not stopping there. The real magic of the show wasn't just in the outtakes or the behind-the-scenes laughs. It was in the way it nailed the humor, the timing, and those unforgettable scenes that somehow still hold up after all these years. There are a few moments that go beyond the usual sitcom formula. These aren't just funny. They're classic. They're the scenes that stayed with viewers long after the credits rolled. Whether it's a joke that hit too hard, a character having a full-blown meltdown in the middle of the bar, or a twist that came out of nowhere and turned everything upside down, Cheers always knew how to land those scenes with perfect timing. We've narrowed it down to 5 must-see moments that still make people laugh, gasp, or rewind just to watch them again. These scenes are part of what made Cheers one of the most consistent and rewatchable sitcoms ever made. Let's get into these moments. The Sam and Diane roller coaster. For 5 full seasons, Sam and Diane couldn't stop orbiting around each other like 2 drama-addicted satellites. One minute they're arguing, the next they're kissing, and then somehow they're back to arguing. Every season finale turns into a cliffhanger about whether they'll finally figure things out or crash and burn again. In Season 5's finale, I Do Adieu, they're finally ready to settle down. The tux is on, the vows are almost in reach, and Diane changes her mind. Just like that, she walks away from the whole idea, leaving Sam standing there with more confusion than closure. Their relationship was always a mess, but watching 2 stubborn people try to outwit love never stopped being funny. The wedding that goes off the rails, Sam and Diane didn't make it to the altar, but Woody and Kelly did. Barely. In the 2-part finale of Season 10, An Old-Fashioned Wedding, everything that could go wrong absolutely does. The dogs are barking, the chef is missing, and someone finds a body stuffed into a dumbwaiter like it's just another party favor. The minister has clearly been pre-gaming before the ceremony, and guests are running wild. The whole event feels less like a wedding and more like a live-action cartoon. The writers were inspired by the chaos of Faulty Towers, and it shows. Somehow, despite all the disasters, the couple still ends up married, just not with their dignity intact. When Rebecca walks in, replacing a major character is always risky, especially when the chemistry between 2 leads has been carrying the show. But when Shelley Long left, Kirstie Alley stepped in as Rebecca Howe, the new bar manager sent by the corporate overlords. Rebecca isn't Diane. She's not trying to psychoanalyze Sam or spar with him like they're stuck in a Shakespeare play. Instead, she's neurotic, corporate, and chronically in love with the wrong men. Her dynamic with Sam is different. They flirt here and there, even attempt to have a child together in season 10. But romance is never the real story. Over time, they both become more attached to the bar itself, treating it like their shared baby. They trade off managerial duties, bicker over renovations, and occasionally band together to deal with disasters. It's a new rhythm for the show, and it somehow works without trying to recreate the past. Frasier becomes the star of his own universe. Frasier Crane wasn't supposed to be more than a temporary character. He arrives in season 3 to help Sam get over Diane, bringing with him a lot of psychiatry jargon and very little chill. By the time season 4 rolls around, he's engaged to Diane, then dumped, then ends up marrying Lilith, a woman even more emotionally rigid than he is. But Frasier's story doesn't stop when Cheers ends. In 1993, he pops back up in Seattle with his own show, Frasier, hosting a radio show where he gives people advice while ignoring his own. The spin-off lasts 11 seasons and nearly matches Cheers in episode count. Old characters from the bar occasionally appear, like familiar ghosts from his Boston past. What started as a supporting role grows into an entire TV legacy. Saying goodbye. One last round. The final episode, One for the Road, is less about wrapping up one storyline and more about giving everyone their own moment to move on. Diane comes back for one last spark of what could have been with Sam. They toy with the idea of a happy ending, but neither of them is the same person anymore, and they both know it. Instead of a romantic farewell, they part ways with a kind of exhausted peace. Meanwhile, Cliff gets promoted at the post office, Woody starts a political career, and Rebecca ends up married, though not exactly to someone you'd expect. At the very end, Sam quietly returns to the bar. A man knocks on the door, but Sam turns him away with a simple response. The place is closed. And just like that, so is the chapter. Cheers was never just about the bar, it was about the people who kept coming back. For 11 seasons, the show balanced comedy with heart, giving us unforgettable characters and moments that still hold up. Whether it was Sam and Diane's drama, Woody's sweet cluelessness, or Cliff's bizarre facts, everyone had something to offer. But now, we want to hear from you. What's your favorite Cheers moment of all time? Was it a Sam and Diane scene? Something with Cliff's weird trivia? Or maybe that one time Norm said something unexpectedly profound? Drop it in the comments.